The Arena Football League is back for a second season in its umpteenth incarnation at this point. It's got a brand new name,
Welcome to the AF1.
a brand new logo, passable if not a little Houston Roughnecks-ish, and an old website that is not only more popular than its new website, but mentions nothing about the goings-on in 2025. Not ideal, but also not the end of the world. Teams folding 3 weeks before the season starts? Now that is certainly a cause for concern. It is also exactly what happened when the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Mavericks were booted from AF1 on February 15th. A freaking Saturday. Not only a freaking Saturday, but the Saturday after Valentine's Day. This is very much a move designed to cover up the fact a same shit, different day scenario is playing out before our very eyes. I'm not saying this is complete deja vu, but in my view, this does have the feeling that we're heading down a very familiar path. Now, this is not simply an Arena Football 1 problem. If you haven't followed the activities of arena or indoor football in America during the offseason, well, things haven't been great. Teams are coming and going at a fairly alarming pace, even by the sport's own fairly transient standard. Amarillo had an NAL team for like a few months, never played a game, is gone. The Indoor Football League had 3 teams go dormant for various reasons over the fall and winter. The difference, though, between the IFL and NAL when compared to AF1 is that those leagues are survivors, man. They scrap and claw and continue to get by. They've overcome all types of obstacles for many moons now and play on to this day. It may not always be pretty, but both organizations do seem to have figured things out, at least to the best of their abilities. To that extent, the AFL, or what is today now AF1, did manage to complete its 2024 campaign, but only by the thinnest of margins. By the way, if you want to know more about the utter dysfunction that was the early days of the AFL last season, well, Arena Insider has a great series of videos I highly recommend checking out, and I'll link to those in the video description below. The debut of the Arena Football League 3.0 or 4.0 or 5.0, whatever it was akin to the Shockmaster crashing his way through the A Flair for the Gold set. Now, the repackaging of the league from the AFL to AF1, well, it's starting to feel like one-man gang showing up as Akeem the African Dream. It's all just starting to feel like a fever dream at this point. During the offseason, the AF1 made a series of rushed, slapdash decisions that just didn't need to be made in the first place. For instance, the league has already released 3 different schedules for various reasons, and all 3 versions are still floating around the internet. Now, look, I understand why the league wants to get its schedule out as early as possible. It does help teams sell season tickets, but I'm guessing those season ticket holders or potential season ticket holders also aren't thrilled with the fact that the schedule keeps changing. More worrying than that, however, is the constant shuffling of franchises in AF1 before down is even played in 2025. As the AFL was limping to conclusion in 2024, newly installed league officials were desperately trying to find expansion cities for 2025. Throughout that entire recruitment process towards the end of last season and into this offseason, league officials were very clear in what they wanted from new potential ownership groups. They wanted financial stability. They wanted ownership groups who were going to be in it for the long haul. Please, I want you to remember this as the video progresses. Anyway, AFL rebrands into AF1 and 3 new expansion cities are introduced, these being Stockton, California, Monterey in Mexico, and Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. A few weeks later, the Oregon High Desert is confirmed. In November, the Corpus Christi Tritons are allowed to join AF1 after the NAL had booted them for not being compliant with all financial obligations. This is a bit of a he said, she said situation. So the ownership for the Corpus Christi Indoor Arena Football League franchise has said they eventually met all the obligations set forth by the NAL. They've gone on to say they were not reinstated into the league due to other owners worried about scheduling issues. Take that for what you will, but one thing here remains clear. Corpus Christi, those running the Tritons, did not meet all of the NAL's financial obligations. They did not meet all of the requirements, and they have admitted as such. Yet, for some reason, AF1 was like, you know what, you're cool, we'll have you anyway. There should have definitely been a few red flags raised by AF1 officials, and yet the Tritons are kicked out of the NAL, and weeks later they're in AF1. It's worrying, right? Like, there is cause for concern here. The Arizona Bandits are the last team to enter the fray on November 16th, 2024. The league goes out of its way to make a big hubbub at this moment in time about how the schedule is coming. It's going to be released on November 19th. That day then comes and there is no schedule in sight. Instead, the AF1 announces that both Stockton and Monterey will not be participating in the 2025 season and have instead pushed back their entrance to 2026. It is believed both franchises struggled to secure enough sponsorships and season ticket deposits to make their seasons financially viable. This is also understandable to a certain extent, despite all attempts by the league to sort of distance itself from what took place under the AFL banner in 2024. Fans weren't going to forget about that anytime soon. And really, who can blame them? It's pretty hard to forget about a league in which half of the teams end up folding before the season ends. I can see why people wouldn't be in a rush to be associated with those franchises in that organization. Also, we have to talk about the Stockton Crusaders here, and not just because I'm a Central Valley, Northern California guy. If those running AF1 took a look at what this ownership group was up to and thought they were going to succeed, that they were going to be great stewards of an AF1 franchise, well, I mean, the league is doomed to high hell. The logo is nothing more than one of those crappy generic esports logos you'd find on Envato Elements. Meanwhile, the website looks like it was made by someone who just learned the basics of HTML and CSS. I know this because when I learned the basics of HTML and CSS in my Intro to Computer Science class, the first thing I and just about everyone else in the class did was include a ticker on our first websites because it was the only thing we could add that would make them look cool. It was like you'd have some text, you could change some colors, and you could throw up a ticker, baby. What really, though, takes the cake on this website here is that in not one, but in two different spots on this homepage, they are asking accredited investors to give them $100,000 for a piece of the team. Look, Stockton is not home to the brightest collection of individuals in the world, but like, come on, you've got to be kidding me. Look at this website. I wouldn't invest $20 in the team for fear of having my credit card details stolen. What is this slideshow? It's 7 photos of the team's logos laid over different backgrounds, an AF1 logo, and the American flag. It literally does not have a purpose. It does not need to be here. And yet, those running the Stockton Crusaders want you to give them $100K when they couldn't even invest $20 to get some freelancer on Fiverr to make them a halfway decent looking website. And yet, seeing all of this, the AF1, those running the league, were like, yeah, you know, I think this collection of people, they're the ones who are going to do a great job of running one of our franchises. The thing is, issues weren't just on the team side of things. The league very much just has this entire fly-by-night approach to the season in 2025. It was never confirmed how many teams AF1 would have in 2025 or how many games each team would play. What would divisions be? There were just a complete lack of pertinent details that would lead you to believe people who were running the league knew what they were doing. It was just, hey, we're playing games in 2025.
We finished with 8. We jumped up to 11, maybe 12, and there may be some more to announce here.
Anyway, Schedule 1 is released sans Monterey and Stockton, and things trudge along until the end of the year in which the Wichita Regulators, one of the few sides to have completed the 2024 AFL season, announced they would be dormant in 2025. You know, it would have been one thing to make that announcement at the time of the league's rebrand when they were sort of reorganizing everything. I get why you would do that at that juncture as sort of trying to pre-plan everything. Yet, for the franchise to come out midway, like smack dab in the middle of the offseason and go, hey, you know, we're not fielding the team this season, it's pretty worrying. It gives you the feeling that there were larger problems afoot. Ownership has said they are committed to making a comeback and that they still plan on rejoining the league in 2026. Of course, every team that goes on hiatus makes a similar statement. And, you know, by and large, most of these franchises just end up disappearing into the ether, never to be heard from again. The AF1 rejigs the schedule for a second time, 2 months pass, and then the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Mavericks, the one franchise in market the league is really all in on, trying to make work, have their membership revoked entirely, leading to the creation of Schedule Number 3. If you are keeping score at home, the AF1 stated its goal was to have financially stable owners for its expansion franchises, groups that were going to be in it for the long haul. 3 of those expansion franchises aren't going to be fielding a team in 2025. Corpus Christi has had issues with its previous league, and Arizona is playing in a market that already has a pretty popular team in the IFL, the Arizona Rattlers. Yes, I fully understand Tempe is about a 40-45 minute drive away from Glendale down there in the valley, yet I just don't know if this was the smartest play to make as far as putting your expansion AF1 franchise. Here's what I don't understand in all of this. AF1, AFL, whatever you want to call it, they had a very stable core of about 8 existing franchises. These are teams that you can pretty safely say would make it through any season unscathed. If this season was all about rebuilding goodwill, erasing the mistakes of the past, and really just washing the stank of 2024 off you, why didn't they just double down on those 8 teams? Just play a nice, good, clean, fun season in which you don't have to worry about teams disappearing. And then you worry about scaling up for 2026. Give all of those new teams a chance to scale up their own operations. And make no mistake, those running AF1 desperately know they need to remove themselves from what happened in 2024. They still need to get away, put some distance between what happened then and what's going on right now. There is a reason why they ditched the AFL name. They ditched that branding. It had become toxic. But if you look at all the unforced errors accumulated in a single offseason by the AF1, it gives you the idea this thing may not be sustainable, and quite frankly, it just doesn't seem as if it's built to last. Given how everything went down during the offseason, it looks as if the only way for the league to survive was by collecting expansion fees. What's more, given some of the poor choices in ownership groups made by the AF1 during the offseason, it does lead you to believe all of that talk about vetting ownership groups, finding good owners, people who had the funds to take on some short-term losses, but were going to be there over the course of years. Well, it was nothing but talk. As long as people were handing them checks, they'd figure things out. As a fan, though, I look at what has happened over the past few months with the AF1, and I'm just inclined to go, thanks but no thanks. I've seen this movie before, and the ending, it ain't worth sticking around for. You know, the thing is, it's not been all negative for the AF1 during the offseason. They have done some things that can be construed as positive, building blocks, if you will. They will have a Sunday night game broadcast on Vice TV. I'm far less bullish on streaming the rest of the games on whatever Evergreen Now is supposed to be. Seriously, that entire catalog is 20 super random movies, a handful of TV series you've never heard of, and arena football. You know, I guess it's something, I suppose. Ultimately, though, you do need more than something. Maybe the F1 gets through this year unscathed and all those dormant franchises come back in the fold in 2026. Make no mistake, that is exactly what I would like to happen. I'm not going to root against a league that is giving athletes, coaches, and front office personnel a chance to pursue their dreams. I'm not going to root against an endeavor that offers experience to marketing and operations staff and something that can provide entertainment and live sports to local communities. There is undoubtedly more good than bad here. You know what? By the way, screw it. Stockton Crusaders, I will happily give you the $30 to go out and have a decent website made. No strings attached. And if you're lucky, I'll throw in some free copywriting for you. However, as a fan who has been burned by this entity before, it's hard to get invested in something when you look out and see all of these shenanigans taking place. There's just so much tomfoolery that has gone down, it leads you to believe more is to come. I'll be watching and rooting from a distance. AF1, I am begging you, please prove me wrong. Thank you for watching this video. To learn about the entire history of indoor arena football in America, check out the video in the upper left-hand corner of your screen. And if you never want to look at NFL ownership the same way again, well, that's going to be the video in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Until next time, I am Cheyenne Hollis. This is The Touchback. And as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.